Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Truth or Trend, the holistic breakdown with Dustin Strong and Dr. Verzal, where we try to take information that is being poured over everybody's heads in the world of health and trying to figure out what parts of that are actually truth and what parts are just really powerful marketing. And so today we are very fortunate to be able to tackle a category of health that is everywhere, and there's so much confusion on it about probiotics and the microbiome. And we have an excellent guest with us today, Cassandre Dejardin, who is going to answer some amazing questions for us today. Welcome, Cassandra. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. Before we go into anything else, we did have a question and I want to share the answer with everybody live on here. Dr. V sent me a message saying somebody was worried about the chocolates that we talked about. And I want to get deep into this. There are lead and cadmium in dark chocolates and chocolates in general. Don't stop listening. We're going to try to tell you what to actually eat. And as we were looking at this earlier, Cassandra suggests the Valrhona is very delicious. And so that's one I have not tried yet. But surprisingly, the safest choices would include Ghirardelli and Taza. Now, they still have some lead and cadmium in them. Be aware of that. No matter what it is, it's almost impossible to not get that. And we've talked about how to help people manage that. But as you go down further on this list, you got those that are exceedingly high in cadmium and exceedingly high in lead. And so this is very simple. And then some that are high in both. Now, you've probably had a lot of these brands, but if you go to Consumer Reports, and I'll put this in the links below, that's going to answer those questions about all of that. But now, let's get to the good stuff here. Okay. Today, we have one of the experts when it comes to understanding the specificity of strains. It was put to me this way: no strain, no health gain, right? That's basically the way that we're going to talk about this. And we want to get into the basics of, or the granular of this, but also a broader scope. And so the company Lallemand is where Cassandra is coming from today. This is a massive company that has had a very long history, and the amount of research that they're putting into this is just profound. So we're very fortunate to have her expertise here today. She shared with us, this massive history. But when we were going through the slides earlier, this is where Dr. V and I really kind of got focused on is look at the amount of research that you guys, and the amount of research you're doing is profound. Currently, you've got 25 clinical trials across 10 countries, over 3,000 participants. You have many trials in categories of gut health when it comes to microorganisms, mental health, women's health, oral health, sports, metabolic health. It's amazing, all of these different categories. So there's so much confusion online about microbiome diversity. So what does the science actually say about how probiotics influence overall microbiome balance? And what misconceptions do you see on social media that you can help bust some trends and bring some truth for us, Cassandra?
Sure. So basically, when we talk about microbiome diversity online, so there is often a mix of good intention and oversimplification.
Well,
So
sometimes people need simplification, but yes, but not oversimplification. Very good. Yes. So let's try to hit that sweet spot.
Exactly. So basically, the human gut microbiome is incredibly complex, as you know, and it contains thousands of bacterial species. And your microbiome fingertip is as unique as your own. So science is still in the process of mapping it, understanding the many species it contains, and identifying the microbial patterns that is linked to a healthy state. And this is one of the challenge actually, because two people can have like very different gut microbial profiles because of their diet, cultural background, ethnicity, or environment, and yet both can be perfectly healthy. So there is not like no single ideal microbiome that everyone should try to achieve. But what we do understand is that gut microbiome with a good range of different bacteria tends to support multiple physical functions. It helps with digestion, immune, communication, barrier function, production of important metabolites, and diet can influence microbiome diversity. For example, if you are taking a greater intake of fruits or vegetable, those has been demonstrated to be associated with a higher microbial diversity. While on the other side, frequent consumption of sugary drinks, for example, tend to correlate with lower diversity.
Very good.
And a more diverse ecosystem is usually more resilient, so meaning it can handle disturbance like stress, antibiotic, dietary change more efficiently.
Very. So, Cassandra, if you don't mind, I'm just going to interject because what you're saying I totally think is wonderful. I want to interpret this or give a way that I've explained it to individuals so that they can, so the average person can really understand this. Overall, I want to just emphasize. I think we've been taught, and I think you're confirming here that the greater the diversity of the microbiome, the greater the strength of the individual. And so when I think about this, I think of a community, for example, right? We need diversity of different jobs. If one community was all firemen, firemen are incredibly important, but the economy would collapse because you need all of the other jobs that are done in a community. And if you're just hitting one specific strain all the time, that's what you're doing is you're saying, oh, firemen are so important. Let's make everybody in the community a fireman. And then the whole system breaks down. Is that accurate? Or would you say that needs oversimplified? So tell me what you think.
No, that was actually a good resume of the science. So yeah, diversity is important, but you also have to remember that you also have to focus on probiotic who are backed with science because probiotics basically they will only play like a supportive role in this whole ecosystem. They are not going to like overwrite your microbiome or make it look like someone else. Instead, that they will interact with your existing community, as you mentioned.
Okay.
So they can help, like for example, reinforce like a beneficial function, support barrier integrity, produce metabolites, encourage a more favorable balance of bacteria, and their influence is often functional rather than purely structural.
Mm.
So in other words, so probiotics do not necessarily increase diversity directly in a dramatic way, but they can help maintain stability and support important microbiome-driven process that relate to health.
Cool. And you also said that the diversity of fiber helps to encourage diversity of the microbiome. Is that accurate as well?
Yeah, because it's like the prebiotic, which is basically what the probiotic will feed on. And if you are giving the probiotic diverse type of food, it's like a human, they will also develop and grow in a better way.
Awesome.
Along those lines, you mentioned in your talk that sugar, is going to feed it. Well, it's going to feed the wrong bacteria, but it's going to limit, right, diversity in the gut. So it's going to open the door for bad bacteria to flourish and not feed the good bacteria. So I mean, that's yet another reason how sugar compromises the immune system. And again, want to kind of pull this back to the fact that we're talking about gut bacteria, and yes, it's in the gut. But that list you showed earlier, I mean, mental health was 55% of, or 55 studies were showing, the effect on mental health. So yes, we're talking about gut health right now. When the intestines aren't working well, that's most low back pain. The quadratus lumborum muscle in the lower back spazzes, or the muscle, the iliotibial band on the outside of the leg gets weak when the colon's not functioning. Whole head headaches is a colon function. So that's a large intestine. But mental health is even more profound, right? And that's community as a whole, community at large, right? We've got the community in our gut affects the community as a whole. So just to kind of go again broad spectrum, some of the physical manifestations when that gut bacteria is out of whack, but what we eat is so huge in really how that's going to maintain or continue on, right?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, your microbiota, it's what we often call like your second brain. And if you are doing good with your microbiome, it will have positive impact or all your body and different health segment that you just mentioned.
Now, Cassandra, are there strains? Now, there are strains though that we have identified that all humans should have, or is that an inaccurate statement? when it comes to, I mean, definitely species and subspecies, right? So the species being lactobacillus, and then the subspecies being acidophilus. But now what we're trying to help ourselves understand, and those listening, is that beyond that, there we get even more specific into the strains. And is that where we start to get divergent in the individual person, that one strain may not be appropriate for many other people if it's appropriate for one person?
Yeah, I can see your point. So, like I mentioned, there is no like single ideal profile, but that being said, it's possible to identify like dysfunctional microbiota profiles because research showed that people with, for example, intestinal disease, obesity, or other health issue often have a very different microbiota compared to healthy individuals. And in those cases, so the abundance and diversity of gut microbiome is reduced, and has a consequences, the microbiota lost some of its essential functions that normally helps regarding healthy metabolites. So I guess they can be linked to personalization. So you really can have like two kind of strategy regarding this.
Hmm.
So first, you can think about personalization based on your microbiota composition, but this will require like a personalized test to analyze your gut microbiota. But to be very honest with you, the science there is still too young to give precise recommendation based solely on the uniqueness of your microbiota. So
Right.
we are not quite there yet. But what you could do is like personalization based on your health needs. So this is where things get practical, because it's important that you are choosing brand or strain that can offer solution for specific health application supported by clinical studies conducting on healthy population. We will never talk about treating a disease, but rather like addressing common needs, like for example, digestive comfort, stress management, or immune support.
Hmm.
So yeah,
If
what is in, but sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to ask Dr. B if only he had a method for helping to discover what would be specific to an individual. If only he had a way. What works?
Yes.
Uh,
So through muscle testing, obviously, yes, we can, correct?
yeah,
And
I believe
so,
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we putting a product in the right hand tells us how the body's going to respond to that product. We can, and then putting it in the left hand is like taking it away. So, if we wanted to compare, a probiotic or a strain, we could actually see if putting it in the right hand first strengthens the person overall, or reduces the 10 areas of tenderness associated with the gut health, with immune health, with the brain health, mental health, like the supraspinatus for the brain, as I mentioned, the quadratus lumborum. So that muscle is going to get less tender immediately if it's the right strain. If it's the wrong strain, then it's going to get worse and get more tender. Then we could actually compare and say, if we put probiotic A in the right hand and probiotic B in the left hand, I guess that's something to teach on Friday night when we all get together in January.
Exactly.
But we can get very specific, yes, and if one strain's better than the other, or one strength is better than another, yes.
But also, Cassandra, we often hear that not all probiotics are created equal, and that's, I think,
Right.
a very important point we want to talk about here too. From a manufacturing standpoint, what truly determines the quality and effectiveness of a probiotic strain? If you could help us guide us into that, right? What should we be looking for before we even bring it in to try to muscle test it?
Sure. So yeah, when you are saying that not all probiotics are created equal, that's absolutely true. So it can come down to two things. So the science behind the specific strains and the quality of how that strain is produced, protected, and delivered.
Hmm.
So first, if you take a look at the science, there are a lot of people who still think about probiotic at a species level. So, for example, Lactobacillus helveticus or Bifidobacterium longum. But effectiveness is really determined at a strain level. So, two strains within the same species can have completely different different personalities and abilities, like for example, two dogs from the same breed, because also they have some common characteristic. Due to their shared breed, they will have a different mode of action. So that's why robust clinical evidence is key to specific name strains and not generic species label. So, for example, a good example is Cerebiome. So it's like our expert in mental health, which is a combination of two strains. So Lactobacillus helveticus roselle 52 and Bifidobacterium longum roselle 175. So those exact strains have been exclusively studied for their role on the gut-brain axis and mental health. And if you want those specific benefits, you need those exact strains, because a random B. longum mixed with a random L. helveticus, it's simply not doing the same thing, because the supporting research doesn't automatically transfer from one strain to the other.
Mm.
So that was for the scientific part. Now, if we take a look at the quality part, so if we are going back to the exact definition of what is actually a probiotic, so it's a live microorganism when it's administered in adequate amounts can confer a health benefit on the host. And on this definition, the word live is like the keyword, because those bacteria, they will face multiple stressors long before they even reach the gut. So they have to deal with the entire manufacturing process. They have to survive to exposure to moisture and oxygen during storage. They have to fight potential temperature fluctuation during transport. And finally, basically the acidity of the stomach. So if a probiotic isn't manufactured and protected properly, it may not survive long enough to do anything. So that's why manufacturing environment matters so much.
Mm.
So at Lallemand Health Solution, we have like full control from lab to the shelf, and we manage every step. So we maintain the integrity of the master strain. We are growing it into the right fermentation condition. We are encapsulating it, in the case of the capsule, of course. And we are ensuring that the final finished product maintains its viability until the end of its shelf life. And our facilities actually operate under strict and quality standards with multiple accreditation and licenses to guarantee consistency, safety, and excellence. So yeah, so when you talk about how quality probiotic, you really think about two things: clinically studied strains with demonstrating effect and manufacturing process that could keep those strains alive and active until they reach their site of action.
Awesome. Awesome. Dr. V, can you repeat all that back to us, what she just said?
I
Well,
like it. I mean, there's some very valuable information there that, and it is. So many, manufacturers say, keep refrigerated. I mean, my first thought is what's going to happen when it hits, body temperature, right? So the stressors that Cassandra just talked about, the acidity of the stomach, the thermal change. So, I mean, does a probiotic, it needs to behave at body temperature, right? Because it's going to be 98.6 as soon as
right.
we swallow it, theoretically. So
Mhm.
if it dies at that temperature, that's a problem, right? We've got all these other, I mean, think of, herbs, ginseng is made because of the strain, the stress that it's under that gives it its properties. Yeah. So, I mean, that's such great information. Thank you for sharing, Cassandra.
So can you walk us through a little bit about specific strains now? Since we're talking about that, we're getting into that. We've heard a lot about gut-brain axis, mood support. I mean, for years, people have used this term psychobiotics. What
Mhm.
does current evidence really show about probiotics and mental well-being? And which strains specifically would you suggest that we're looking at that are leading the research right now?
Sure. So specifically on the gun-braid axis, so like I mentioned earlier, I will recommend Cerebiome, so which is our scientifically documented probiotic formula designed to support mental health. And as I mentioned, it's the combination of two strains, so Lactobacillus helveticus roselle 52 and Bifidobacteria longum roselle 175, at a concentration of 3 billion CFU per day. So basically, think that the early,
Sorry, could you just repeat that for everybody? That's something that I think they need to hear once or twice. So the
the,
strain, or I'm
yeah,
sorry, the species is which? Which is the species?
so Cerebiome is a combination of two strains. So you
Cerebiome.
have,
Okay.
yeah, it's the name of the combination.
Uh-huh.
But you have, so the first strain is a Lactobacillus helveticus, Roselle
Leviticus.
52. Yeah,
So
helveticus.
Lactobacillus is the species, Leviticus is the subspecies, and now the strain is the number you're giving, correct? Just for those who aren't familiar with all of this. Is that correct?
Yes, basically, so you have the genus Lactobacillus, the
Mhm.
species Helveticus, and
Uh-huh.
the number of the strain, like you mentioned, Roselle 52.
Okay, got it. So that's one that is, so you're using this in combination with another strain for mental health specifically. And what's the other one?
Yeah, the other one, it's a Bifidobacterium longum,
Okay,
Roselle 175.
there we go. Because I know a lot of people have heard of Bifidum longum, right? But you have to get down to the no strain, no gain, right? We got to get to the really, and what was the number again?
175.
175. Okay, and so is this what was being used in this research that you were showing us earlier of the 35 preclinical publications and 14 clinical publications? Or is
So
it
not only this one, because we have like several experts for mental health, but Cerebiome is clearly one of the top. And actually, we have um, we have 10 clinical studies specifically on Cerebiome,
okay?
and we always have like a new science coming out because so yeah, 10 clinical studies and 11 preclinical studies, which allied 8 mechanisms of action on the gut-brain axis thanks to the specific combination of strains.
Wow.
Yeah, so we were like a pioneering in the field thanks to our first two clinical studies. So the first one was on 2008 and the second one on 2010, because it really like showed for the first time the benefits on probiotic on stress-induced gastrointestinal symptoms and occasional physical stress in otherwise healthy adults with occasional stress. But now we went further because we showed that Cerebiome provides benefits not only in stress and gut comfort, but also in a holistic well-being, because we show some improvement in physiological parameters such as sleep quality, which is perfectly aligned with the evolving needs of consumer,
Definitely.
um, but also in a recent we had like a proof of study concept which was just published actually this year who showed an improvement of sleep circadian rhythm, perceived stress, but also on skin health. So really introducing the in and out well-being concept that we mentioned earlier. So you have to know that regarding gut-brain axis, like in 2024, we had like a more than 1,600 newspaper that were published on this specific subject, so the microbiome gut-brain axis. And recent scientific evidence has identified actually Cerebiome, so the combination of those two strains, had the most evidence-supported probiotic formulation for mental health.
Wow. Wow.
Mhm.
That's phenomenal. You said there's 8 different mechanisms that they have.
Exactly. Yeah.
Are you able to kind of walk us through some of those mechanisms?
Sure. So basically, we show that Cerebiome has a positive impact on behavior, that it can help regarding the protection of healthy brain structure and metabolism. It can also make prevention regarding neuroinflammation. It has also some modulation of the HPA axis, so hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. I
Yeah.
hope I get it right.
Yeah, perfect.
It helps regarding the synthesis of neurotransmitters and their precursors.
Wow.
It also made some modulation through the vagus nerves. We have some protection regarding the intestinal barrier. And finally, we have a cytokine modulation.
Wow.
That's profound.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you for sharing.
My pleasure.
And what do you think, Dr. V?
That was a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
everybody should have access to these strains, right? Don't you think? At least to see if
that's
it's something that they need.
yes, and I would ask Cassandra's skin is a testimony. We should ask what probiotic she's taking. Your skin looks great, Cassandra.
Cerebiome.
Okay.
There you go.
So this powerful combination, how did you guys land on these two specifically? Is it just something that you found in healthy individuals, or what was it that helped select those two specific strains in combination?
Great question.
Yeah. So yeah, we study, of course, because um, so when you think about a probiotic, most of the time you think about the final capsule or powder, but actually their journey starts long before that. Because we have a specific institute called the Roselle Institute for Microbiome and Probiotics, where we are using like advanced technology and scientific expertise to develop the probiotic strain that support the human health. So thanks to our discovery platform, we are screening and evaluating strains both in vitro and in vivo. So we will look at their functional properties and, of course, establish their safety. And we are also investigating their mechanism of action using advanced technology and models. And then from there, only like the most promising candidates, we will be moved into clinical evaluation. And so this study can be initiated by sponsor, investigators, or clients, and we can test either individual strains or basically a combination. And there's at this phase when we generate the evidence that tell us exactly which strain deliver which benefits in which population and at what dose.
Wow. What do you think of that, Dr. B?
Whole new world. Yeah, I mean, it's super exciting though I mean, how far technology has come ultimately. I mean, the profoundness of how this affects overall health, and again, just remember this is not just talking about how your poop looks.
Right.
This is how your brain works. This is how your arthritis is a leaky gut problem. There's
Right.
so many mental health conditions, and we're always talking about neurotransmitters and serotonin and its effect on all of this. There's so much meat here and functional usable information and how the gut is functioning. I mean, it's exciting, the possibilities of what this all represents.
I was trying to find a visual that you can walk us through, Cassandra. So when people are looking at a label, they kind of know what they're looking for, if you don't mind. And I couldn't find one that had the 175, but I do think you mentioned Roselle. So this is one that Dr. Versal and I have been investigating and trying out clinically a little bit. But what you're talking about is this Lactobacillus helveticus, right? Isn't that what you mentioned earlier?
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Roselle 52.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and here, what I think is interesting is they're also giving you the actual CFU 90 billion and what percentage of this combination here is represented in each of these. So this is kind of the future of where probiotics are going, I would imagine, is what you're explaining to us, is that unless we know the actual number and the strain, we're really not getting any knowledge of what's happening in the body. Like you said, you could have two different dogs from the same breed, but totally different personalities, I think is how you put that. So that's why it's really important that we get down to these numbers when we're looking at it, and even knowing the actual CFU, because you said it had to be 3 billion, I believe, of certain ones. But this one doesn't have the 175. What was the other one in that combination? Is that in here?
Yeah. So when I'm mentioning 3 billion, it was specific to Cerebiome. For other strains, the concentration can be different regarding other clinical study. But for this product, especially, so you had what we call our expert lacidophile. So this one is composed of the Roselle 52 that you just showed, and also the Rhamnosus Roselle 11, which is like the first one.
Here we go. Okay.
Yeah. So what we call lacidophile. So basically, it's actually a very interesting strain as well, but more focused on woman health, this one particularly, because we have like two clinical studies with lacidophile that were done in pregnant women and showed that it helps to maintain the healthy microflora in pregnant women going under antibiotic treatment.
Wow. Okay. Well, yeah, after antibiotics, this is where I think one of the biggest reasons that Dr. Versal and I are often introducing people to probiotics. And so that's why I think this is going to be so helpful when we start testing specifically. And personalization is becoming more of a trend in wellness, and I think it needs to be. Do different people truly, I mean, they definitely need different probiotics, but how can someone know what's right for their microbiome from your perspective? If they're not able to get muscle tested, what would you suggest? How do we figure that out for them?
Like what they need to look at on the label, for example, to help
I guess
them.
so. Yeah. I mean, because it is so personalized, right? How
Mm-hmm.
can someone know what's right for their microbiome if they're,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they aren't able to be muscle tested for it?
Mm-hmm. So, if I have to give some tips, so there is no like a perfect checklist,
Oh, of
but
course. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Just some tips. Tips is what we're looking for. Yeah.
Exactly. So what I would do is, like you mentioned, you have to look like for a full strain name, not just species, because if only the species is listed, you have basically no idea which strain you are actually getting, and you cannot link it to clinical evidence. Secondly, like you say, I would look for the CFU count at the end of shelf life, maybe not at time of manufacturing, because a quality probiotic should guarantee viability until the expiry date. Um, Third, I will look at how the products describe the documented benefit. Like, are they using vague general claims or are they using like very specific one? Because the benefits should align with the strain clinical research. If the
Mm.
strain has been studied for stress or gut-brain axis support, the product shouldn't be promising benefit in unrelated area. And yeah, basically look for transparency because brands that invest in strain that are clinically studied typically highlight it. So they name the strain, they say study, and they refer to specific clinical results.
Great.
Mm.
Great. Dr. V, do you have any questions on that? Or do you want to help with the muscle testers to kind of
Well, I was just thinking of another company that uses manufacturing dates
Oh
on
yeah.
their products, and that has me thinking, I want to know how long I can confidently say this product's going to be good for a patient. It has me actually questioning whether I want to continue with this company that uses a different dating standard.
Yeah, yeah. That's just it. That's the whole point is just trying to figure out what are we sticking with and what's been working, what doesn't work.
Right. Mhm. Basically, we need to learn a whole new language now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Where else can people find these specific strains in this combination that you mentioned earlier for mental health? How can we guide people to be able to find this combination so that they can discover for themselves whether that's something that they need?
Cerebiome specifically, you mean?
Yes. Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I would take a look at the list of the strains, and some company are actually using a specific logo in front
Okay.
of the packaging, mentioning Cerebiome. So that could be also a trick to find it if you are looking specifically for a probiotic targeting mental health.
Okay. Cerebiome. So how do we spell that for those who are listening so that they
Are
can
you able to
find
bring
it?
that label up, Dustin?
I'm
Or
trying
have
to.
her give her the camera maybe or
Yeah, do you have a place that we can show what that looks like? Because I can't seem to find a product that contains it. Cerebiome.
Uh,
Could you spell that for me?
yeah,
you might have
it's
to.
like Cerebiome. But we have
Gotcha.
like a dedicated website called discover.cerebiome.Lallemand, where you could find specific data on cerebiome.
Oh, okay.
And if I'm not mistaken, they are showing some
Even
example of
call it a
products.
psychobiotic right there on the website. It's already
Yeah,
instructed you there.
exactly.
Okay, here we go. Gotcha. Cerebiome. Okay, good. Very cool. Good. So we'll put this in the links for everybody to read up more on that specific combination so they can get because we don't want to just tell them the information and then be like, good luck. Go find it.
Right. Mhm.
Cool.
Can you
Awesome.
show the strains on it real again? That was the cover, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let's go back to
Mhm.
that. Show everybody what that looks like on here as well. So this
Now
is
that
the
we're learning how to read labels.
yeah, that's right. Well, this isn't on a label. This is talking about the two
Yeah.
different. Here they are: Roselle, Lactobacillus helveticus, Roselle 52, which was in the product that I did find, but then the Longum Roselle 175. This is the combination of the two that creates Cerebiome.
Exactly.
Do we know what neurotransmitters are affected by Cerebiome, Cassandra?
Not sure about this one. Neurotransmitter, you meant?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Do we know? I mean, imagine it's serotonin for, melatonin.
Oh,
It
yeah,
would be a
sorry.
hormone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
serotonin, indeed, because it's always like linked to the
Gut.
happy, if I could say. Yeah, basically. So yeah, this has some effects on this one especially.
Do we have dopamine effects and some of that, I would assume? GABA. I mean, GABA is a gut-brain control.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more like on serotonin, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. I mean, just from a clinical perspective, I would think, GABA is associated with, gut-brain control. It's the brain. I talk about, the brain's control of the gut is through GABA. And so that would be probably quite relevant there. And then, with yeast overgrowth, we're going to have low noradrenaline. So I imagine that's going to be affected potentially with it. Then we've got, like you were just showing, the effects for women's health so dopamine is the brain's precursor for estrogen. So I imagine all of those could potentially have profound effects or benefits by putting proper bacteria in the gut.
Yeah, so we show with Cerebiome some modulation of neurotransmitter linked to depressive like behavior, like tryptophan actually, and also modulation of three-polated energy sources in the hippocampus with increase of L-lactate actually.
So wait a minute, back up there. You said what does it do to tryptophan?
Like tryptophan.
Oh, okay.
Depressive. So calming effects, right? Is that kind of is that
it doesn't have an impact on tryptophan or?
Yeah, we show like an increase on the people that took Cerebiome versus placebo.
So it increases the tryptophan, did you say? So the precursor. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know that the human body can make tryptophan out of vitamin B3 if it doesn't have enough, right? Which is kind of amazing. So it's nice to know that there's also a probiotic that can be helping bring in appropriate levels of tryptophan when the body needs that, which seems to me to be the more natural way to do it, right? As opposed to just taking a tryptophan supplement necessarily, even though it's an essential nutrient that we should be getting in there. Fascinating stuff, Cassandra. Rhea, I know we're running out of time. Do you have any other burning questions you think everybody would want to ask her while we have her on the call? I think this is a great start to a very long conversation that we're going to continue. But I want everybody to take away from this is that there's so much more we can learn about the microbiome and so much benefit that can come the better we get at understanding it and the more specific we can and identifying things that have destroyed your microbiome over time. As you mentioned, antibiotics. Anybody who's had any antibiotic exposure, they do need to reevaluate whether or not they have the strains that are there to support and do all of these things. And that goes deep. That goes into even foods and animals that have been treated with antibiotics. If you're eating meats that have been used antibiotics, there's so many things that can compromise the microbiome's diversity, right? And so many strains that could be gone. There's so much opportunity and there's so many things we can do when we start to bring these back in there. And it's a young science, as you said, Cassandra. It's so nice to be able to continue to learn. And I think as we move forward into the future, we're going to get more and more empowered. And there's going to be so many other things that we're going to understand could have been powerfully impacted and allowing the body to heal if we had the right presence of the right microbiome or probiotic strains, I would say. Would you agree with that?
Exactly, totally. Yeah, 100%.
100%. All right, got an A. So if you could give one last piece of advice, Cassandra, for empowering research-backed advice for taking back control of your gut health for somebody out there who has had an overexposure to antibiotics or has had some GI distress and
or eating sugar in the holidays.
That's a start. So yeah, basically if you want to take control of your gut health, it will be like listen to your gut, like literally and holistically, because as we say, like our digestive system is often called like our second brain, and that's for a good reason because it influences not only the digestion but on also the immune function, metabolism, mental well-being, and even aspect of healthy aging. So if you are aware of how your gut responds to food, stress, and lifestyle choices, it's actually the first step toward supporting it. And we know that the balanced gut microbiome helps maintain the integrity of your intestinal barrier and support your metabolic health and contribute to your overall quality of life. So if you maintain a generally healthy lifetime with balanced diet, rich in fiber, fruits, vegetable, regular physical activity, adequate sleep, stress management, it's basically essential support for your gut and overall health. Probiotic plays a role in addressing specific issues or supporting microbalance, but they are not like a magic solution and they will never counteract the effect of a poor dietary of lifestyle habits. And taking care is not of yogurt is not only about digestion, but it's ultimately like investing in the longer, healthier, and more vibrant life. So by paying attention, making informed choice, and using science-backed dietary solutions like probiotics, you can truly take an active role in your gut health and basically in your overall well-being.
Well said.
There's
Doctor,
our soundbite.
yes, you said everything you want to say. It actually made me want to ask one more question, if you don't mind, Cassandra, because we do know we've talked on this podcast earlier about different probiotics like L-reuteri and Akkermansias, and there tends to be certain foods that have been associated with supporting them, like that have specific fibers. For example, pomegranate is associated with robust Akkermansia. Are there foods and specific fibers from specific foods that have been identified that support the cerebiome combination, or is that still yet to be discovered?
I think this one's still in process. So we at Lallemand Health Solution, we can do like finished product and basically offer you some probiotics, but also from some prebiotics. So we know that the prebiotic that we offer is compatible with our probiotics. But I don't know if there are specific clinical studies like on pomegranate and probiotic. I'm not sure about this one, but
Okay. Okay. That's great. And is there any other question? You may have answered this earlier, but now my brain's coming back to it. Is this combination of strains, have they been found in human breast milk, or where have they been found in nature that people had been exposed to in the past? Do we know that?
depending on the which trends we are talking about, but most of the time it's like on based on the nature. So yeah, it can be dairy origin or other food origin, but yeah, it really depends on the strain. We have like more than 40 strains in our portfolio.
Uh-huh.
So regarding the strains that you are interested in, its origin will be different. But basically, it's from nature because this is where all the bacteria come from.
Sure, sure, absolutely.
Mm.
Well, and I know it's almost impossible to say that they're in human breast milk because if the mother doesn't have them, then she can't pass them on through the breast milk, right? But if she does, then that's one of the things that I also ask when I'm trying to determine whether somebody needs more support for their microbiome is whether or not they received it in the first place when they were a baby,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, actually, it's interesting that you're mentioning that because one of our latest clinical study is called Prenatis, and it was done on a pregnant woman, and it was only the mother that were taking the probiotics, but we show a positive effect, especially regarding the maturation of microbiota on the infant as well.
Wow. Okay. That's what I wanted to hear. Well, we're running out of time, actually. Dr. V, do you have any last questions for her before we say goodbye to everybody and call this a day?
Like you said, the conversation's just beginning. It's a virtually endless topic, and as Cassandra was talking about, the research is growing by the minute. So I mean, you dropped some great pearls for us, Cassandra. Thank you for your time and sharing, and I look forward to diving into this more.
And as you make more profound discoveries, Cassandra, we're going to put it on you to make sure you reach out and share it with us so that we can get it back on here and share it with everybody.
Sure, with pleasure.
Wonderful. We really appreciate your time. We think this is really powerful information everybody needs to know. So thank you for being here for us, and for all those listening. For anybody who has more questions, please reach out. As you know, Dr. Versal and I will find some way to bring whatever answer we can that actually is supported by the science and supported by what we've discovered, and making sure that we're keeping you guys all healthier and happier for forever and ever as we go forward. Okay. Any last thoughts, Dr. V?
Happy digesting.
Happy digesting.